Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Plotlines. I'm your host, Connor, and this is the show where we discuss cultural issues and where we're trying to build culture. And we've got a great show for you today because we're going to be talking about The Lord of the Rings. We're going to be talking about the future adaptations as well as this desire that studios have to make a cinematic universe. And there's this desire in for Tolkien's world, for Middle Earth to become like Star Wars. And that's the main topic for today. So a week ago, Rick and I discussed sort of what it means, how this happened, how there are multiple studios working on a Lord of the Rings adaptation. So we have the Amazon series, of course, and then we have the Warner Brothers New Line uh, movies coming out, as well as there's also an animated show or anime movie that's going to be coming out by New Line, or that by Warner Brothers, which is something Riding of the Rohirrim, which it looks like it's going to be discussing the story of Helm Hammerhead. So Helm Hammerhand, I think Helmerhand, something like that. So that's what we've got news wise. Hey Mac, so let me know in the comments if any of you have any interest in actually watching any of this stuff. If any of you watched the Rings of Power, let me know. I know I did a review series, and if or when when the next season comes out, we'll get to that. Also, thank you all for subscribing. I know I got a lot of new subscribers after the Gavin Ashenden episode, so I hope you all enjoyed that, and thank you. Yesterday, I did an episode on the French monarchy, a historical episode, so check that out if you're interested. But this is a normal episode for us. This is an 11 a.m. live stream for me, 11 a.m., and I want to keep this up. I know yesterday the last episode came out a little later, but I wanted to do it as best as I can, and it worked out. It worked out best for me to take a little bit more time, put more effort into it, and get it right. I don't want to give out subpar content if it takes a little bit longer and I can get it right. We have a lot of interviews coming up in the future, some big stuff that I won't necessarily give away, so keep your eyes out for that. So with the Lord of the Rings trilogy, it's interesting to me that they make the comparison with Star Wars. So first, with Star Wars, you have the original trilogy, and you have the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which is the first big movies at least. I know there have been other adaptations, but these were the most successful ones. So we've got that. So we've got the Lord of the Rings trilogy and the Star Wars trilogy. They both are sort of these dramatic films that take the movie industry by storm, and I think that's something that is impressive. Mac says, "Smack that like button." Thank you, Mac. But yeah, so we got the Lord of the Rings trilogy and the Star Wars trilogy. They seem kind of on par in some ways. Of course, Star Wars is not an adaptation of anything. It is a creation by George Lucas, and it comes off that way. It's definitely something new, but it has its roots in other fiction, like all fiction does. So that's not new. That's not a criticism of any sort. Then you have the prequel trilogy, which kind of is a little bit more sort of like they overreach a little bit. They have too much CGI. they sort of it's very much a movie or a trilogy of that time, which interesting enough is coming out around the same time of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. That's those trilogies come out around the same time. So if you look at Lord of the Rings trilogy, where it's very minimal special effects, only sort of when it really makes sense, when it's really necessary, and everything else is sort of the opposite. It's not special effects. It's I don't what's the term? The term is uh, practical effects. That's what it is. So there's a lot of practical effects, which is great. I mean, I think that's what everyone's learned from the early 2000s is that nobody wants series that is overly saturated with CGI when you could easily make practical effects. And I think that's one of the reasons why Marvel is losing out at the moment. So Ne you've got the Hobbit trilogy, which has a lot more special effects as well, used a lot less practical effects. It was very rushed. It was poorly sort of set up, which I think, is to its detriment. Obviously, it was poorly set up. And, so yeah, so it was poorly set up, and while Star Wars was more it had plenty of time of setting up, it was more of just George Lucas. Not everything you make is going to be 100% perfect. And when George Lucas kind of had nobody keeping him from doing certain things, he just went crazy and did, a lot. There's a lot of good story elements in that work, but it's not as good of a trilogy. Now, so now we've got a little bit of a straying from this sort of situation. So obviously the sequel trilogy went on in the Star Wars, and that was completely garbage. It was terrible, though, and it was pretty woke. And I think it actually does relate well with the Rings of Power, and I think the Rings of Power is similar. It sort of takes a little bit from the sort of the lore, but really doesn't really do it justice. It doesn't make a good adaptation. And the sequel trilogy is very much, it's divorced from George Lucas at that point, so it doesn't have the creative mind going for it. And that's so now what could can Tolkien's world really be a cinematic universe? I think this is a terrible idea. I think it's a terrible idea because the mindset of a cinematic universe at the moment is so bloated that it won't work. If you want to make sort of standalone stories, I think there's a way to do that. But the mentality of making it a cinematic universe is just garbage at the moment. I think Hollywood is garbage at the moment. Eric Sammons replied to a tweet of mine. I did a poll on whether people were excited for the new Lord of the Rings content, and he said that Hollywood needs to prove itself every time. Each Hollywood story studio needs to prove itself because at the moment it's guilty until proven innocent because they don't have the confidence of the fans. There's so much division at the amongst Tolkien. Well, I mean, there's kind of the normies who are fine and like really love the Rings of Power because they don't know anything better. To be honest, they're they are inundated with so much bad fiction right now, and they have such a probably majority of them have a poor understanding, and these are normies, of course, have a poor understanding of quality fiction. I mean, and I think that's just so common amongst my generation. It really I didn't start reading good books until like 5 years ago because nobody made that an important element of my life. Now, uh, that I don't know how much that was. It was mostly the culture, not really, and maybe it could have been pushed more by my parents and stuff like that. But I just wasn't having it as a kid, so it was pretty difficult to get me to do that. I'm was much more interested in video games and stuff like that. Though reading has always been a little difficult because I don't have hands, and that can be a little bit difficult to read. Hands are useful when it comes to reading things, and it's only been recently that things are online and that sort of thing. But I also don't like reading online. Like I don't like ebooks that much. They're uh, they just kind of take all the fun out of it. They take all the joy of it. Though Audible, I do like, audiobooks and that sort of thing. That's been very helpful. But so we have this from, well, I'm have from the Hollywood or Yahoo News, but also uh, the Hollywood Reporter said Warner Brothers hopes to turn Lord of the Rings into a Star Wars like franchise. Now, what was this? This is kind of similar to Netflix buying Narnia and wanting to make it the next big universe, cinematic universe. That hasn't Nothing has come out of Narnia and Netflix at all. I haven't heard any news about that or anything. So it's quite interesting to me that, they're wanting to do this. But that's not even happening. Where's Narnia and Netflix? Not that I necessarily want to see what they're doing, but this mentality hasn't necessarily gotten off the ground in certain areas. I do think Warner Brothers needs a win, and they are uh, bleeding money. They don't have money to even advertise their own movies. So there's, that's the kind of the status of Warner Brothers. They need a win. So maybe there's a shot of this being good. But I'm tired of adaptations like The Rings of Power. I'm tired of hearing about how bad Amazon did with, I think, The Wheel of Time. My understanding is it was pretty bad. I haven't watched it because I have to read The Wheel of Time before I ever watch, an adaptation of anything like that. But, so that sort of thing. Also, if you're watching this and you like my content, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Uh, it really great if you would support us. We're very close to 800 subscribers, which is also pretty close to 1,000 subscribers. And once you hit 1,000 subscribers, it YouTube starts sharing your content more. I'm also on Rumble. If anybody's interested, go subscribe on Rumble to Plotlines, as well as also if you're listening to this on podcast, please leave a 5-star review, of course, and a review. So that would be that's very helpful for the podcast. But yes, so the the idea of them turning this into a trilogy, or sorry, a whole world, like a whole universe, is just bonkers to me. I can't stand that idea that they're trying to make a cinematic universe, because you can't have an air a like you can't have single off stories in Lord of the Rings. The Hobbit is kind of the only example of that. Maybe you could say that. I think that the best thing you can do with Lord of the Rings, or Middle Earth, is that you have overarching movies. That might work. I could see it working. I just don't trust New Line Cinema. They have to come out and say, "We are going to be faithful to the books. We are not interested in making Middle Earth look like modern day in any capacity culturally. They have to talk like they're from Middle Earth. None of this modern language, none of the swearing or anything like that. You can't do that in Lord of the Rings because it doesn't feel like Lord of the Rings. There is some, hope, because New Line and Warner Brothers are trying, or saying they want to bring the feel of the original trilogy back, the original Lord of the Rings trilogy. And if they can do that, That would be amazing. That'd be perfect. Also, they're definitely trying to court Peter Jackson to come back and do movies. I think they need to do things slowly. So the big thing Marvel's doing is they're just spewing out movies, and they're pretty much garbage, and spewing out TV. And that's what Star Wars kind of doing with they wanted to do that with the movies, but the movies, got really, tanked really. The Rise of Skywalker tanked. The, you know, you can't subvert the expectations of an audience regarding beloved characters. You have to develop. You could develop you They could have, like, developed Luke into a different character, or with different characteristics, but you would have had to show his change. They didn't do that. They just went from one, this optimistic person, this optimistic, um what is it? This optimistic hero, into this cynical old man who, he's basically just kind of a jerk. He and then this young woman has to bring him out of that. And it's all about the women. It's all about, you know men look like stupid idiots, and the women are all powerful, and that sort of thing. Also, Kathleen Kennedy basically made all the leads women who look exactly like her. She basically she basically made fan fiction, or the Mary Sue kind of thing is where you make someone who is exactly like you and put them into the story, and that is kind of what she did. So, uh yeah, that's basically uh the situation with the new Lord of the Rings movies, kind of an update, because this is really, the big news really is just that insiders have told the Hollywood Reporter that they want to make it into a cinematic universe. And maybe like Star Wars, and maybe this is just them saying, um yeah, feminists can't write well because they have to write the truth. Writers write the truth. You have to write. y- Fiction is just a way of putting the truth and reality in a different format than just in a different way of experiencing the truth. And when you write falsely, it's not good. It's terrible. But yeah, so what was I saying? So the big news is Hollywood Reporter comes out with this insider's view. Now, of course, it's sometimes, it's hard to trust the insider, unnamed source. We've all know that can be a load of garbage, completely nonsensical, or not trustworthy necessarily. But it's not like, it's a little different, I think, when it comes to um, politics and stuff like that versus companies like these. It's a weird reason for them to lie to us. So take it with a grain of salt, But that comes with a lot of things. Is like these corporations say one thing and then do another. So that's a so I wouldn't put all my hopes in this situation. Warner Brothers and New Line uh, have to earn our trust. Also, again, like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I think we'll keep this to 20 minutes. We're almost up for this episode. So if you have any questions, comments that you want me to respond to, feel free to send something in the comment section. Um, I really appreciate all of you watching at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday, and it just I love watching this channel grow, and it means a lot. I really want to grow culture. I'm writing. I want to make my own fiction and improve the culture as much as possible as I can. And I want I want people to, find the faith. I want people to, grow holistically. The problem is usually people have been not not been allowed to grow holistically. Everyone's trying to help somebody, maybe working out, or reading or with news, and then you have the spiritual aspects. But I would like to help people grow and learn on as many and in as many ways as possible. And that's why I interview people. That's why I talk about fiction. That's why I talk about history as well. A lot of these stuff are things we can learn from and things we need to know to be better informed in our life. So, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for supporting my content and everything that I do, and I really appreciate the support. So thank you all for watching. We'll have another episode out tomorrow, and please ring that bell button so we can so you'll get notifications when things come out. Like anyone besides knowledge of the Lord of the Rings lore and talent to do anything with the job. Warner Brothers collaborate with anyone who has expansive knowledge of the lore. Yeah, this is a good question. Hmm. I know I know this is a Lord of the Rings question, but I know people wanted to do this with Star Wars. There were people that are really in the lore and stuff like that that wanted to do movies and stuff like that. Let me think. With Lord of the Rings, I haven't heard of any, sort of not fanboys because that's a terrible term, but really like a good director for this. Let me think. You couldn't do a Marvel director or anything like that because it would tonally be completely off. I think Peter Jackson is basically sort of the main guy who has the knowledge. But I think they want to work with him, and I think they will collaborate with people that know the lore. There was a medieval historian who has studied Tolkien's works for a long time. I can't remember his name, but he left the Amazon Lord of the Rings show because it was terrible. And I wouldn't be surprised if they want to do something more akin to the original movies, if New Line and Warner Brothers get him back, though he might be kind of dis um he might not want to do it because of his experience with Amazon, though this again different company. So, but yeah, no, I can't think of any good directors. I'm not as knowledgeable on directors these days, but I could see somebody like if they worked with like David Henry's company, uh Novo Media Group. I think that would be an interesting one just because he's connected at least to the Catholic community more, and I think he would be an interesting person that could be brought on. And since he's very much in the, he's trying to bring out more Catholic content. It seems he's also in the works trying to make a Blessed Charles movie with the Habsburg family. So maybe David Henry. David Henry would be probably my at least he might be able to be like, okay, I may not direct this. Maybe this isn't the movie to direct for him, but maybe he would probably know best how to go about it, at least from a Catholic perspective. So I think that so yeah, that would be probably that's my best idea. If there's anything else, let me know in the chat. Otherwise, also, join the Discord. There's a link in the description if you want to keep up with my content, if you want to interact with me outside of YouTube, if you want to join. We're starting soon. Will be weekly, sort of streams that will only be for Discord users. So join that. If it doesn't, if there's a problem with the link or something, just leave a comment. I'll put a new link in the description as a response to your message, and hopefully that will work. Otherwise, I'm not sure how to get it to work. So thank you, everyone, and have a blessed day. Bye.